Good afternoon or good evening, everybody. Happy to be here this afternoon and share some thoughts and ideas and information with you. First of all, I'd like to thank you for joining us on this call. I know, once again, that you're all busy. You have a lot of things to do and a lot of obligations and opportunities. I'm grateful that you have taken a moment and are willing to spend that moment with me. This is going to be a fairly quick call. However, there are some things. I wanted to make sure that I was able to express to you directly. My intent for this call is to communicate some things clearly and hopefully to raise the levels of trust between us here in the home office and you that are out there in the trenches, in the field, building your business. We recognize that maybe at this moment that those levels of trust might have been damaged a little bit. And I want to try and communicate clearly and help to reestablish those. Now, you'll see me look down. Most of the times I just speak right from my heart and from my instincts. And today I'm doing that, but I've made some notes because I want to make sure that I hit the important things. Some of the things that you have communicated to us, we want to make sure that we address those issues. Let's start with last night. I wrote a letter. In my heart and in my mind, that letter was reassuring and comforting and encouraging. Many didn't interpret it that way. For that, I apologize for my lack of writing skills. I guess I'm going to have to work a little bit harder on my ability to communicate thoughts and feelings clearly on paper. I came to this format tonight hoping that I might do a little bit better verbally. But I want to reassure you that the intent of that letter was never to demean anyone or to denigrate or to make anybody feel less than for the efforts that they put forth in this business. In fact, quite the opposite. It was to celebrate every one of you and the work that you do. Not only in this business, but in your lives, the choices that you make, the responsibilities that you take on, and the fact that you have made decisions to do something different, that you don't accept the status quo and you're out working hard to change things in your life. And I absolutely respect and applaud that on every level. I understand that around this Noir collection that there's some frustration. There's more than some frustration. There seems to be a lot of frustration. Seems to be some anger. There seems to be some disappointment. A lot of negative verbs there we could use to describe the emotions that are happening around this collection. I want you to know I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. I understand why you might be feeling some of those things. And in fact, earlier today, I shared with Art a story. I want to share it with you. When I was in the concrete business, I had a concrete pour one time that was a large building. There was a lot at stake. It was a large deck that was up in the air. There was a lot of form work. There was a lot of reinforcing steel. There was a lot of concrete, and it was basically about $500,000 worth of work, all hinged on that one day for that pour to go well. The pour didn't go well. There were a lot of issues with it, and in fact, we had decided to pour it on Saturday because that's when I could get better service from the concrete company. And in order to do that, my finishing crew had hired extra guys. Well, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, with the pour already in danger, about half of my crew said, well, it's 2 o'clock on Saturday, we're going home. And I asked them to stay. I begged them. I told them I'd pay them $100 an hour to stay 2 more hours and finish the deck. But when concrete gets hard, if you don't take care of it in the moment that it's ready, the concrete tells you when it's ready to be finished. Well, they didn't care. They went home. My deck became a disaster. And as I drove home that night, I stayed. I was up there. Kenny was up there with me. We were just cutting it out, trying to save this pour. And ultimately, it was one of the worst finishes I'd ever seen on a concrete job. And as I drove home that night, I was so emotionally distraught. I was close to tears. And I reached down and I turned on the radio, and a song came on the radio that I had never heard before, and it just popped on the minute I turned the radio on, and the lyric went like this: So you had a bad day. And I started to laugh. I just had to laugh. It was so appropriate that I knew that the universe was saying to me, Mark, sometimes things just don't go well.
So hold on.
And I'm not going to be so condescending as to say when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. I'm just going to tell you sometimes life gives you lemons.
Happened to him?
And suck it up.
He's the victim in this?
And you... The question in my mind at that moment was, how long am I going to keep these feelings? How long am I going to be so emotional that I'm almost heartbroken, that it's a physical illness in my heart? And I recognized that I had a choice, whether I was going to indulge that feeling or whether I was simply going to say, okay, tomorrow's another day. And you know what? We came back on Monday and we had to grind on the deck and we had to put some coatings on top of it and we had to finish it and we had to fix it. And it cost several $1,000s, but we fixed it. And I went on to do many more jobs for that contractor. Life goes on. But I do understand those moments of frustration, those moments of fear, those moments where we feel like things just aren't working out. We've gotten a lot of emails over the last couple of days, and I want you to know that we have read them, we listen to them. I particularly enjoy the ones that are thoughtful and constructive, but we've read the nasty ones too, and that's because we understand you are upset. In reading those, we've learned a lot of things. We've heard a lot of rumors. We've heard a lot of speculation. Some of the things we've heard are completely inaccurate. Let me just tell you that 25% of the active retailers were able to order product in that system. Let me also tell you that the distribution of those retailers that ordered was equally distributed as our sales curve is. So, in other words, we monitor a sales curve that shows who sells $0 to $500 a month worth of product. Who sells $500 to $1,000, $1,000 to $1,500, $1,500 to $2,500. We watch that because we want to know how you're doing as a group. And as we watch that, our goal is to move people in that system to, from one level to the next, where you continue to progress and improve your performance, if that's what you want out of your business. But we were able to take the distribution curve of who ordered and lay it over that distribution curve of who sells, and it looks very, 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 very close to the same. Over 70% of those who ordered are simply distributors who do not receive a bonus check. The idea that there is some kind of built-in favoritism to leadership is simply not true, and I want to reassure you that that's not true. There's a perception that that's true, and in a moment I'll address another issue that may have created some of that perception. There's a perception that this launch was designed to help the big sellers and ignored the smaller business owners. Once again, that's a perception that simply isn't true. Another one that I just find quite humorous is we were accused of taking all of the returns, sending them to Vietnam and having them died and then shipping them back. Anybody that's ever been involved in supply chain knows that simply wouldn't make any sense at all. Anybody that knows Deanne and I know that simply wouldn't happen. It simply didn't happen, wouldn't happen, and I just want to reassure you to that. Pre-sold to mentors and top sellers, no, did not happen. We have many of the top sellers who did not get in. There is a queue system that has been set up, and we did not sell any product to anybody before the queue opened. It simply didn't happen. Why didn't it happen? Because we are committed to this system that at the time seemed to be the most fair that we had. There was an accusation that email logins could be shared and that those could be used multiple times. They could be shared, but they could not be used multiple times. I double-checked that with the IT department. I wanted to know for a fact, because I heard that early on, that people were sending that email around. The information that I was given back is that simply can't happen. Now, if you have any proof that happened, provide it to me and we will get to the bottom of it. But I'm under the impression right now, based on what I've got from my IT team, that they don't see how that could have possibly happened. We learned a lot. We always learn a lot. Around here we have a saying that we want to be learn-it-alls, not know-it-alls. And so when we do something that is not optimal, when we do something that has caused this much backlash, this much frustration, this much hurt and anger, of course we need to dive into that and ask, what could we do differently? One of the key things that we learned from this launch is, number one, that our launches are all different. This is the first time that we ever launched a product that was a single product, a single color, and it doesn't fit with our other launches. However, after the other launches, we had made some rules and some policies that we said would best serve everybody, and that was that we were not going to put limits on launches. In hindsight, this is a launch that we probably could have put limits on. I'm sorry that we didn't. However, we made that decision with the best information we had ahead of time. It's real easy for us to look back now and learn from that, and we will. We will continue to learn from those things that we do, and we will learn from those of you who give us constructive feedback. There's different types of rules for different types of launches. So whether we're bringing out a new product or a capsule launch, or maybe something that is in the main line like this Noir launch, we will have different rules that apply to those, and we will look a little deeper into how each of those would affect you as individual retailers. We recognize that we have some work to do in the queue system. This comes back to, why does it seem that some of the top sellers may have received an advantage? And that is that we're aware now that they were able to have multiple devices open, and that may have given them multiple entries into the cart or given them an advantage in getting lower numbers. We will be addressing that. In the future, you will come into the waiting room of the queue with your retailer ID number. Now, whether that'll be ready for the next launch or not, I can't promise. That is a software upgrade that we're working on, but we're aware of it and we will take care of it. But I want you to understand how the queue process works. When you log in pre-queue, there is a waiting room, basically. Think of it as a virtual waiting room, and everybody goes into the waiting room. And when it's time to open the shopping cart, somebody comes into the waiting room and says, okay, everybody line up. The difference is you don't get to choose your place in line. If you're in the room, you might fight for the front of the line. But in this system, that line is completely randomized. So you may have been the first one into the queue or into the waiting room, into the pre-queue. That doesn't mean you'll be the first one in line. Everybody that's in there in that moment is randomized into an actual queue. And then those are allowed into the shopping cart, and the IT team is watching the shopping cart in real time and watching the load on it and watching how quickly people are moving through it, and they're managing that queue so that we don't crash the shopping cart. Now, many of you who have been with us for a while recognize the beauty of that. We used to crash on every single launch, and we would upgrade, and we would buy bigger software and better engineers, and they would promise us, oh yeah, we can handle this, and we would launch something and it would crash. When you people are passionate about what you do and you all get on there at once, we crashed multiple systems. So now we at least have the queue that allows everybody an opportunity to get in. Again, limits were applied on this based on rules that were maybe not accurate rules for the launch that we were doing. So where are we now? Where we are now is I want to share with you some thoughts about who we are, about our relationship, about the fact that I feel right now that there is a low level of trust between the retailers and the home office. And I recognize that this is a difficult thing to do because trust is really built through personal relationships. And I acknowledge the fact that as the CEO, I don't have an opportunity to know each one of you personally. I don't have an opportunity to sit down, to have a meal with you, to ask about your children, to know your children's names, to know your pets' names, to know what your dreams are. But I will tell you that we want to do that. Deanne travels extensively and gets out in the field so that she can spend more face time with you individually as retailers. It's our goal to get to know you better. It's our desire to know you better. It's our desire to make sure that we align with you and that you align with us. And so it's not intentional that there's these low levels of trust, but it's what it seems right now. So recognizing that you don't owe me that level of trust right now, I'm going to ask you to indulge me for a moment and to trust me, give me your permission to tell you a little bit about me. And I'm gonna speak very personally right now. I'm not speaking for Lularoe. I'm not even speaking for Deanne right at this minute, although I will assure you that Deanne and I are very aligned. But I want to tell you about my why. I want to tell you a little bit about my beliefs, things that I hold to be true, reasons why I'm here in this business right now. And the things that I hold to be true are the things that are found in the Constitution, that all men are created equal, that we have an opportunity to pursue our own dreams, our own desires. I believe what Martin Luther King said, that he has a dream where men will be judged on the content of their character and not the color of their skin. I have a vision for this company where people come together and serve one another, that there's kindness, that there's love, that there's empathy, that there is an opportunity to serve others while you build a business. This is not a business of just make money. It never was.
Well, how
it
can you
never
have
will be.
$2 million cars?
I want you to know right now that those discussions about how much money is at the bottom line do not take place in the home office.
I don't buy that.
The conversations that take place here is how does this help our retailers to succeed? How does this enhance their ability to have a successful small business? I believe deeply in freedom. I'm committed to the concept of freedom. And I'm committed to the idea that owning a small business gives you more freedom than many other options in life. I personally have been an entrepreneur my whole life. I've enjoyed incredible freedom. But as Viktor Frankl said, liberty without responsibility is pointless. And so I also believe in responsibility. I believe in making hard choices. I believe in making decisions that are aligned with your character and your integrity, whether they're popular or not. Many people have expressed to me a distrust because we seem to not be consistent. Now, I understand that trust is the result of consistent behavior over time. So let me tell you what I will be consistent at. I will consistently do the things that I believe solidify this business for the long term. So if I change my mind about a compensation plan, I'm not being inconsistent. At that moment in time, I have information that tells me this is a change that needs to be made for the long-term stability of this business. If I change my mind on a return policy, I'm not being inconsistent. I have information at that time that tells me that decision has to be made, whether it's popular or not, for the long-term stability of this company. If I change a decision of where our products are made, if I change a decision about what products we make, if I make any decision in this company, what you can absolutely rely on is that it is consistent with my desire to see this business thrive and provide opportunities to you and your families far into the future. When we started this company early on, we were able to visit Hershey, Pennsylvania. Many of you have heard me tell this story. I did not know anything about Milton Hershey when we visited there, and we took a tour bus. We went around, we were able to see the city, and we saw the factory. Then we took this tour bus that took us out, and it showed us all the things in Hershey that Milton Hershey had done for the city. So we saw the Hershey Senior Center and the Hershey Park and the Hershey Pool, community pool. And then we saw this school that is an orphanage. And The orphanage, the school was beautiful. The main assembly hall had inlaid marble floors. The grounds were kept immaculately. There were fountains. The students lived there in small groups in homes where there is a parent couple. And the place was just phenomenal. I was blown away by it. And I was so impressed. And as we were driving around with this tour guide, he was so knowledgeable about everything that was there. And as we ended our tour, he said, "You may wonder why I know so much about this school." He said, "I was a student here, and now I'm a CPA, and I volunteer 2 days a month to come back here and give these tours and tell people about the wonderful things that happened here." I want you to know that that inspired me. That is a core of this company, is to make sure that that culture of love and service survives long after Deanne is gone, long after I'm gone, that people remember that Lularoe is a society, a community of people who love and support one another. When you get ready to hit that send button, be careful. Ask yourself, is this serving me? Does it serve my retailers? Does it serve my fellow or my customers? Does it serve my fellow retailers? Does it serve the consumer? Does it serve the home office? Does this serve a constructive purpose? If not, please be careful, because that you put out in the world is going to be your legacy. What you communicate, what you say, how you say it, is what you will be known for and what you will be remembered for. Be careful with your words. Words are powerful. As a young man in high school, I had a teacher who came in one day and he said, "I want you all to stand up." And we all stood up. He said, "Now I want you to turn around." We all turned around. He said, "Now I want you to sit down." We all sat down. And he said, "You realize that by passing some air over my vocal cords and creating sounds, I just controlled the behavior of 30 people. That lesson has never left me. Your words are powerful. Be careful how you use them." I want to recognize your passion and excitement. I'm passionate about this business. Deanne is passionate about this business. We come here because we believe in you. We come here because we believe we're making a difference. We come here because we believe in you more than you believe in yourself sometimes. We know that you have the power within you to follow your dreams, to find those things that you desire. But you have the power within you. Nobody outside of you has that power. And so when I say a single piece of clothing cannot make the difference, I don't mean it to excuse our behavior. I don't mean it to say, well, so we'll just do whatever we want. I mean it because it is my truth that that piece of clothing cannot define your success or failure. You define your success or failure. You're passionate about this business. We love you for that. We're passionate about it. Why are we fighting each other? Why don't we take that great passion and enthusiasm and let's direct it towards serving our customers? And when you have something to say to us, our ears are open. We are listening. When you're disappointed about the way we did something, feel free to reach out. But feel free to reach out in a constructive and positive way that allows us to respond to you as stakeholders and to deliver the things that you're hoping for. Please don't be so disappointed. I've had emails that told me I've cried for 12 hours. I ask one question: how long do you want to be upset and angry? It is a choice. Once again, with your permission, my life philosophy is that we choose our emotions. I'm not asking you to believe that. I'm not asking you to buy in. I'm not telling you that I'm right. I'm saying that's a philosophy that has worked so well for me. Do you have a right to be angry? Yes, you do. How's that serving you? How does it feel to be angry? And do you want to be angry for a minute? Do you want to be angry for an hour? Do you want to be angry for a day? For a year? Those choices are up to you, because eventually, hopefully, you won't be angry any longer. But it's so much better to not be angry. It's so much better to be happy. And I'm telling you that your happiness is a choice. And so with that, let me just express once more. But we don't know you all personally. Deanne and I love you. We believe in you. We pray for you. And we wish you nothing but the best, even if your best is outside of Lularoe. We want to see you succeed. We want to see you happy. So with that, thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.
I said, interesting. See, that was interesting.